Studio 33 AD, Catholic Media.
Hello everybody at St. John's Cathedral. My name is Father Tim Segert. I am overjoyed to be your new parochial vicar. So this video is here for me to introduce myself. Father Osorio has asked me to do so because he thought it would be good for me to get to know you and for you to get to know me a little bit. And so I'm happy to do that. A little bit about myself. I am from Boise. I moved here when I was 5 years old. And so I consider Boise to be home. It's a city I love. Unfortunately, I've been away for about 11 years because I've been studying at grad school, and then I worked for a little bit, and then I was at seminary for 7 full years in Western Oregon. So I'm really, really happy to be back. I'm really happy to be back at the cathedral. About 5 or 6 years ago, I spent a summer here as a seminarian. So some of you may remember that if you were here at that time, and I really enjoyed my time here then too. A little bit about myself. I was not raised as a Catholic. I became a Catholic when I was 22 years old at St. Paul's Student Center down at Boise State. And that's a whole story in and of itself, but suffice it to say, it is the best decision I ever made. And I've been a Catholic for 11 years now. And shortly after I became Catholic, I went over to the East Coast and, as I mentioned, went to graduate school and then went to work, and I got my first job, my first full-time job at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. And it was there that I started to really get into a very Catholic environment. They have, for anyone who's been there, there's lots of religious orders there. There's the Basilica of the Immaculate Conception, which is our national church, and all kinds of other very Catholic things there. And I was still kind of coasting on that high I had from converting not that many years prior and really practicing my faith, but I also simultaneously was plateauing in many ways in life. I felt like I'd achieved many of the goals I had set out to do, which were pay off my student loans. I had a bunch of good friends and I had a good job and a good apartment, lived in a cool city and enjoyed what I did. But there was just something very unfulfilling in all of it, and the thought occurred to me that, gosh, I might do this until I die. This might be it for the rest of my life, for the rest of my 50, 60 years on earth. And that was a very dissatisfying thought to me. And so that was going on in my life. And then in addition, I was involved in my parish, and one night I decided to go to a young adult event. And there's only 5 people there, and I thought, oh man, this is going to be a pretty lame event. Ended up being a priest, a Dominican priest, giving his vocation story on how he became a priest. And it was remarkable because I found myself so much like him in so many ways. He was a convert to the faith like I was. He was an only child like I was, and many other things that we had in common. And I thought it was really bizarre, but I found the message to be extremely striking, even though the speech wasn't particularly well given or amazing in that regard. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, why do I feel so strange and struck by your message? And I thought he was going to tell me I was crazy. Yeah, that's kind of strange. But he's just, without missing a beat, he said, oh yeah, that's the Holy Spirit. And that's really the first time I considered that I might actually have a calling to be a priest, right? Because I realized that's not something that happened to most people. Most people are not struck in that way by that kind of speech. And so it was after that point that I really did a bit of wrestling with God. And for a couple of months I went through a pretty intense kind of discernment process where I prayed a lot more to ask God to leave me alone. Didn't work. He didn't leave me alone. He kept hanging on. And eventually I went to the St. John Paul II Museum and saw how beautiful his priesthood was, and that's when I realized I thought I was supposed to be a diocesan priest. So from that point on, I decided to come back to where I'm from, which is Boise, and now I'm here. And so I'm, as I mentioned, very happy to be here. I've already been a part of many of the elements of the parish. I've said a few masses. I've loved that. It's been beautiful to celebrate in this church. I've done a number of anointings of the sick in local facilities, and that's been very powerful in many ways. I've heard confessions. That's extremely amazing. It's amazing to be on the other side of the confessional, just to see the mercy of God at work and to be a part of that. And I love preaching. It gives me so much life to preach. And hopefully I hope to do a lot of that with you all and be as part of as many ministries as I can. here at St. John's. So I'm so thankful for the warm welcome, and I look forward to meeting as many as you if I can in the short time that I may be here. First assignments tend not to be that long, 1 or 2 years usually for the bishop before he moves me to somewhere else. But in the meantime, I want to make the best of it, and I look forward to seeing you and being your priest.
Studio 33 AD, Catholic Media.